Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the JMO Podcast. I'm your host, Tayler Michels, and we've got a very entertaining guest this week, Sam Sobi. Sam decided at a very young age growing up in southern Minnesota that he would do whatever it took to make a living in the fishing industry, and now in his mid-20s, he's doing just that, making some of the most popular videos on YouTube and social media, posting about how much fun fishing can be and educating people along the way. There's a lot to learn and a lot to enjoy on this week's podcast with Sam Sobi.
Sam?
Hey, Sam, Taylor here.
Hey, how's it going, Taylor?
It's going good, man. How do I say your last name exactly?
Sobi, S-O-B-I, Sobi.
Just Sobi? Okay, because Sobiek, is that like your official last name, or are you shortening it up, or how does that work?
Yeah, my official last name is Sobiek.
Okay.
Sam Sobiek, but everybody just calls me Sobi, to be honest. So that's why if you go by Sam Sobi, that's better.
Right on. Okay. Will do. Sam, why don't I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself in your own words. Where are you from? Who are you? Where are you from? Where do you like to fish? And, how did you kind of break into the industry?
Yeah, totally. I live kind of in the South Metro, so I live kind of in southern Minnesota. And I've been fishing my whole life, doing video production work ever since I was about 16 or 17. I ended up going to college at Stevens Point, Wisconsin, more or less for fishing because they had a really good bass team there. So that was kind of the reason I chose that school, I think. And besides that, man, I love fishing all over. My heart's in the Midwest, but I love traveling down south kind of in the winter and stuff like that when I'm not ice fishing. So I'll fish anywhere and go for anything. My heart's in the Midwest, and my heart's definitely with bass fishing, but I'm game for anything and any new adventure.
Talk a little bit about some of the early days fishing and when you actually realized, when it actually kind of struck you that you were going to give it a shot in the industry. Talk a little bit about that time frame.
Totally. So to rewind, probably when myself and my buddies were maybe like 16, 17, definitely 16, 17, we started kind of picking up cameras, and this all originates from watching guys like Jason Mitchell and Al Linder and Bill Dance. Like that's everything we did and everything our whole lives revolved around was we're either fishing, watching fishing, playing sports, or hanging out with buddies at school. So on the weekends when we weren't doing sports, we were fishing. And if we weren't trying to like enter in a local derby or something, we were like, doing what I think everybody does. We kind of like act out like we're on a fishing show, right? So we started to get our hands on kind of like the original GoPros that started coming out. I forget what year this is, but we would have been 16 or 17, and we just kind of started playing with them. And from there, we kind of slowly upgraded to like just small handy cams at Best Buy and stuff like that. And we just started making little fishing videos, and we didn't post them anywhere. I've probably got weird old computers that got crazy videos on it that'll never see the light of day, and we just started to shoot videos of fishing, kind of just because that's what we've seen and what we loved on TV. And then I think maybe toward the end of when I was 17 or 18, we started like really kind of editing them. I had a really bad old computer, and I had downloaded some software from school, and I was just putting together small videos that were maybe 2-3 minutes long and putting them on YouTube and stuff like that. So from there, I met up with a whole bunch of other dudes from northern Minnesota. They're called like Team Yukon Outdoors. And this is before Instagram. This is before even YouTube's really big. This is kind of when Facebook was still fairly new. And we started posting a bunch of pictures on Facebook. We kind of had a Facebook page. And we were posting some small videos on YouTube. And from there, it just slowly grew. We decided, hey, we should maybe work with some companies and partner up with some people and potentially promote some gear. And it kind of all ran from there. And I guess from there, I moved on, went to college. I did a bunch of subcontracting work, like a bunch of different promotional work with outdoor brands, shooting commercials and stuff like that, while at the same time, we still kind of kept pushing forward on the YouTube front. And then from there, my work kind of got recognized for more clients, and I started getting a little bit better at filming and editing and upgrading cameras. I went down south and worked with 5 big YouTubers, kind of in the Texas area. Worked with them for 2 years. We traveled the world, traveled everywhere in the United States, like 6 or 7 countries. then kind of moved back home, still kind of pressed forward with my own YouTube. And so today I do YouTube full time along with a variety of subcontracting work for different companies, still doing like commercials, promotional work, some photography, stuff like that. So what started out as just grabbing a GoPro at 16 has really, I don't know, changed into my career, and I'm so happy and blessed I'm here. I don't see myself going anywhere. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
So Sam, what would you say was your recipe for success early on? Was, contacting these companies, is that something that came natural to you, or were they contacting you because they liked the content that you were putting out there? I mean, how was that for you? And what would you say to, there's a lot of young people out there nowadays in this day and age with all the technology and all this, streaming video and all this. The technology age, there's a lot of kids, a lot of young people out there that are giving it a shot or trying to make something happen for themselves and maybe aren't having the success that you have had up until this point. What would you say to that?
I would say if you got to make the decision almost like, is it something you really want to do? And if you're all in about it, if it's something you really want to do, then I think there's absolutely room for you in the industry or anywhere within video or the outdoors. If you want a career in it, I think you can totally make it happen, but it's not going to come overnight either. Like I'm just about 26 now, and we've been playing games and hanging out with people in the industry since we were probably 16 years old. And I think the best way to go about it is just be present. Be present in everything you can do. Go to a bunch of sports shows, talk to these companies. I can't tell you how many free promotional videos I've done for people or different shadowing I did. Like I would talk to different companies. Like one of the first companies I started talking to was Clam, and I told them I think I want to be a graphic designer, and I ended up going to college for graphic design. But when I was, I think, 17 and 18 years old, before I'd even gone to college, I said, could I shadow some of your workers kind of in your marketing department and in your graphic design area and just see if this is something I think I could do or something I really like? And they were so open arms to letting somebody come in and just kind of be a fly on the wall. And that's what I would say. Just do stuff for free, be a respectful guy, and it's going to be a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. So
yeah,
maybe I'm not explaining that well, but that's
that's excellent
for me, I guess.
No, that is perfect, Sam. Were those your own ideas to just walk up to, somebody at a booth at a sports show? Did you just decide that? I mean, did you have mentors? Did you have some support?
To be honest, probably my biggest mentors or people that pushed me out of my comfort zone were some of my best buddies. I got a good buddy up north, Brentmer Lopez, a good buddy down south here, Adam Bartushik, and like I said, we were all kind of part of that Facebook group called Team Yukon Outdoors, and me and Adam had fished a bunch of high school bass tournaments together, so we were trying to land sponsorships for high school bass tournaments so we could go down south and stuff like that. And we were asking for everything, hey, from a rod or a reel or a little bit of line. Like we were willing to do anything for anything. And just I think my buddies alone helped me push myself out of my comfort zone and just talking to different people. And I mean, it wasn't always strictly asking people for something or business. We were excited to be at different sports shows and be at different events, be at different tournaments, and just talk to people like Jason or a Dave Gens or Al Linder. Like just to see them in person was like, hey man, like every weekend we go out and we try to reenact what we just saw you guys do on Saturday morning. Like, yeah, so it was just cool to be in that environment. I think we just knew this is where we want to be, and this is life. Like this is everything. This is what we worship, the fishing industry.
What is some of the advice? What is some of the advice that you're telling your fans that are wondering how they can maybe get into the industry in a similar fashion that you did? Whether you're talking to those fans directly or maybe there's some dads listening to this show and their kid is all fired up about fishing and they want to support their kid, and what are some of the pieces of advice that you got for that demographic?
For sure. I feel like I get two questions all the time from subscribers or from anybody. Is the first question is, I'd like to work in the outdoor industry, but I don't know where. And I would tell those people, I would figure out kind of a certain place where you really see yourself or something that you're extremely passionate about. I'd find somebody that's doing that and I'd reach out to them and at least have a conversation and potentially pick their brain. The cool thing with social media nowadays is you can almost have a conversation with anybody out there. I answer hundreds of direct messages on Instagram every week. Sometimes it seems like every day. And that's what's cool about it is if you find maybe you want to be a conservation officer or work some for the DNR, I bet you can find that person and potentially message them and maybe hop on a phone call with them. Or maybe it's a YouTuber and you want to talk with them and pick their brain. These people out there that are working in the industry, they're good people. And a lot of times they'll have a conversation, at least kind of maybe either point you in the right direction or give you some advice. So if you want to work in the outdoor industry somewhere, I'd figure out kind of that general area you might want to work in and then just reach out to somebody and have a conversation. The other question I get all the time is, I want to start a YouTube channel. I don't know if I should. Do I start a YouTube channel? Stuff like that. Or is it even worth my time? And I always answer, it's 100% worth your time. And don't go into it with the sense of, I want to totally just make this my career. I want to do YouTube full time as a career. You should go into it with the sense of, if I record memories, whether it's outdoors fishing or camping or hanging out with buddies, YouTube is a free platform that you can post those videos and memories on. And like, it doesn't matter. Your kids can look at it down the line. Your grandkids can look at it down the line. Like, if I had videos of my grandpa fishing from back in the day, I think those would be so cool to watch. I think I've seen 2 pictures of my grandpa holding a fish, and I know he loved to fish back in the day. So just to have a platform where you could potentially post memories of you out having a good time in the outdoors, I think it would be crazy not to post stuff on YouTube. So if that's something you want to do, I'd always suggest somebody to do it.
Sam, I think that is great advice. You make that comment about fishing memories of your grandpas, and there's maybe only a few pictures to show for it. In this day and age, with this technology age, and especially young people that are really good at this technology and are the editing process on social media apps nowadays is pretty easy to work through. YouTube is just like that. Not everything has to be super public on there. You can make home videos, you can make memories and just put them on YouTube and share them with friends and family if you want, and kind of work your way through that process and find out if it's for you. At what point did you realize that maybe you were getting some traction? I mean, you were posting some videos early on and it was kind of playful. At what point in time did you realize that maybe you were kind of good at it, and that maybe, at what point in time did the light switch go off that, oh, this was definitely going to happen for you?
Man, I don't know. That's a tough question because it always just seemed like, it honestly kind of always just seemed like a pipe dream to ever have my own fishing show, but it was something, it was like do or die. I had to make it happen. So I started feeling like it's something I could at least do, or the outdoor industry is something I could make a living in, when I started reaching out to more clients, and then clients started reaching out to me. And I started getting so many people reaching out that wanted me to film, that I feel like, okay, I can do this. And at the same token, I wanted to be in front of the camera as well and have my own show. And I don't know, it's a combination. It's not like I make my living totally in one area. So I still feel like every single day I'm figuring out, all right, how do I do this? How do I make a living doing this? And I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, when I just started to see a lot of positive feedback and maybe people start recognizing you out in random places, that's when I think I knew, okay, we can maybe make this happen. It might be real.
You're a young man, obviously you got a long career ahead of you, but you've got quite a few experiences in the industry. How would you say the industry has been this far? I mean, has there been a few things that are right in your imagination already, or has the industry maybe influenced you a little bit positively?
Oh, I'm sure the industry has influenced me, but it's like it's changing. Everything just seems like it's changing so fast. And like right when I was really starting to learn cameras is right when the whole YouTube thing started popping off and fishing started to become an actual space, I guess, on the platform YouTube. And we kind of rolled with it and went with it. And when I was doing a bunch of videography work for the bigger YouTubers down south, that's where I feel like I kind of honed my skills of filming and editing, just doing it every single day, every day, like film, edit, repeat, fish, film, edit, repeat. And that's, I feel like during that time, not that I wasn't detached from the industry, I was so focused on the video work that it seems like everything's changing so fast, and I've just been trying to fish and film as hard as I can.
When you got into the industry, was it all about being the best fisherman? Is it a little bit about entertaining? Like what is your recipe for success with your content?
Sure. Well, even subscribers all the time will ask, just I guess, how do I step up my fishing game? And it sounds extremely cliche. Like guys like Jason Mitchell have been saying this from day one. Is like you said, time on the water. Like every minute you got, if you could spend it on the water, you could still learn for a million more years. Like that's the cool thing about fishing. That's why I think I really love it. It's like you can never know it all. You know what I mean? And it's like that growing up, I guess against my buddies and other weekend tournaments and stuff like that. That was the goal always. Like we just got to be the best. We got to go out there and kick absolute butt. Like if we don't practice, if we don't get our butts kicked a million times, like we're not going to get better. Blah blah blah. Me and my buddies, I think that's what helped too. Is we always pushed each other to like just to be really good or be better than each other at least, and then hopefully it resulted in, I guess, some knowledge down the line, and we've got a lot to learn. As far as my kind of recipe on YouTube goes now, it's tough. I still battle with that every day if I want the video to be more entertainment or I want to put in more education, because like what you see on YouTube isn't always exactly how it went down, or we try to show it the best we can, but like a lot of times there's days where you're getting your butt kicked for 8 hours straight, and then all of a sudden it goes down, and you just catch them really, really good. So I'd like to, as far as the content goes, I like to try to show that we got our butt kicked this morning really, really hard. This is kind of how we adjusted, and now we're having a great time. So I don't know if it totally encapsulates kind of how rugged the day was beforehand, but that's at least kind of what we're trying to make. The cool thing with YouTube is it's extremely real if you make it real, and that's what I always just kind of want the content to be. I want it to be exactly how it went down.
Of the videos that you've put out that I've watched, I think that that's true with you, Sam. I'll reference one that I was watching before talking to you here. I went back and I watched a few, and I just wanted to be random. I just kind of went back, scrolled back, and some of your more recent stuff, clicked on one, and I'm not even gonna probably describe it well enough for you to even know which one it was. But ultimately, you were headed fishing somewhere that was a travel trip, and you got to where you were gonna camp, and you had just a few hours of daylight, and you got there, you had a buddy with you, and you shoved the boat off just to get like an hour and a half of fishing on a completely strange, obscure lake, where you were just going to camp and have supper for the night, and ultimately get to where you were really going the next day. And I thought, regardless of how many fish you caught in the education of it, it really just, seeing content like that really resonated with me, where I'm like, when I do watch content, I want it to be guys that have that mentality and have that drive to get, drive maybe a few miles over the speed limit just so that you can get an hour and a half of fishing on a lake that you've never heard of in your whole life and not catch one fish, but just to get those casts in and just to kind of, whatever, and so I really appreciate that about you, Sam. And then in those videos where you do whack them, that's the stuff too. That's the stuff where it makes sense then, where somebody didn't give you waypoints, but you went out there and, you found the productive weed line, you found the productive point, and you found those active fish, and you found what they wanted to eat. And I appreciate that. And so that would be how I would want to segue into some fishing stuff, man. What open water bites that you enjoy each year? I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, you talk about bass. I know you're a multi-species guy. If I scroll down your Instagram photos, bass isn't the only thing that you'll catch, but if we want to talk about bass, we can talk bass. What's the trendy stuff happening right now that's in your world?
I guess the biggest, and then to kind of touch on what you said, that's what gets, if you like fishing, that's what gets you up in the morning, is going out there on a brand new lake, or a lake that you have known nothing about, or maybe know a little about, or know a lot about, and just dial them in and figure them out yourself. Because like that, dude, that is the best feeling in the entire world, when you don't know anything at square one when you first drop in the boat, and then you walk out of there feeling like a superhero. And that happens more times, or it doesn't happen more times than not. But when it does happen, that's like, dude, that's what it's all about. If you like fishing, you like figuring it out yourself and dialing it in. So kind of to roll into bass fishing, what's kind of at least new for me is some local tournaments have opened up. Me and my buddies, we fish a little tournament Tuesday, just kind of weekday series around here locally. And that's everything. We love this so much. I film it every week, and I try to turn it around by Wednesday. So everybody knows tournament Tuesday is Tuesday, and we turn it around Wednesday, and it's like so intense. Even though it's 15 boats, all local guys, they're hammers. We get our butts kicked sometimes, we win sometimes. That's like, it's battle royale every week, and that's what fires me up. That's what's new here.
I love it, man. So what are some of your favorite patterns that you dial in every year? I mean, what's the best day of bass fishing for you? If you could choose the day on the calendar and choose the weather that day, and the bait, the lake, the everything, let's just describe the day for Sam Sobi.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's always fun to like crush them on a topwater frog, or crush them frogging, or shallow, or throwing a jig under dock. But that's always fun. But like, if I had to choose, like right now, we're kind of going into where bass should be like in their summer spot. Like, I love fishing deep rock. I love fishing deep weed lines. I love throwing a roller jig, just nice and slow, where you're just planted on that spot that hopefully you and maybe a couple other guys only found, and you're just dragging nice and slow. So boom. So like, as far as fishing now, it should be really good, especially deep water. So
yeah. Talk about some of the bodies of water. Where are some of the notable bodies of water that you're getting out hitting some of them patterns?
Sure. Some notable bodies of water that I guess people might know that are listening to this is I get out on Minnetonka a decent amount. I don't have a lot of tournaments out there. I will have a couple coming up, but Lake Minnetonka. From there, kind of southern Minnesota, like more toward the Faribault area, like Shieldsville area, Shields Lake, a lot of Crystal Lake, Marion, just a whole bunch of smaller bodies of water, kind of in the South Metro area. There's so many good lakes, like anywhere in the Midwest. There's so many good lakes that set up so well to go out and crush fish.
You ever make it over to the Dakotas, like Northeast South Dakota? There's a lot of bass over there.
There's a lot of bass over there. No, I haven't since I was probably younger. I did some ice fishing out there, and we actually caught smallmouth through the ice out there. But I got two good buddies that live kind of right in the Dakotas, and the pictures they send me and like the Snapchats they send me, like I really got to get out there and just kind of explore. And it's not that far away from me.
Right. That would just be a nice little hop skip for you.
Where would you suggest I go? Or like,
oh man,
you were like, oh, there's an amount of good lakes here that you could do smallmouth, largemouth.
Yeah, like we've like with Jason, we've gone down. We filmed some decent shows. Like Round Lake is a kind of a well-known lake right over there, and it's round just because it's round. But great smallmouth lake. But if you make enough casts out there, I mean, it's there's big crappie out there. You'll catch a walleye on accident, but it's kind of sneaky that you'll catch a few nice largemouth out there too. But we just filmed a cool bite in North Dakota, the warm water discharge, just not far from Bismarck, capital city in North Dakota. There's we got a power plant with a warm water discharge. We were fishing in, I don't even remember when we filmed that. It was like April or May. It was like the early May. We're all bundled up, wearing our gear, and the water was 80 degrees. And we filmed a show. Jason probably caught 25 bass between 2 and 5 pounds in, I don't know, maybe like 2 hours. I mean, it was every cast, and we were there. We felt like we were undergunned. Like, we went out there. Neither of us had been on that water forever. I was going to run the camera, and we're like, well, we'll just go see if we can find them. And after like 2 hours, I had batteries laying all over the boat. Our sound systems were all over our bait. We had lines cut everywhere. So it's just one of those trips. But I would highly recommend that, something like that, where it's kind of an obscure thing. You'll go, you'll absolutely wear your shoulders out, setting the hook, and there won't be another boat anywhere on the lake, which is bizarre.
And that's what I want to do. Like, I want to explore those areas, especially in the times of year like April, when, like, man, ice fishing is obviously over. Everybody's itching to get out, and Minnesota bass season isn't even open yet. Like, those are the bites I want to go to, where it's like, man, I can drive 6-7 hours from my house and go crush fish at a hot water discharge. Like, count me in.
Yeah, well, and in North Dakota, the season doesn't shut down, so you could do it in January. I mean, the water.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we put that video out. We got that on our YouTube page too, and it's yeah, it was just like, it's just a bizarre thing to think about. If you get a new boat, for instance, or, whatever it is, if you just got that cabin fever in January or February when everybody else is wrapping up ice season or doing whatever they're doing, you can pull your boat. Well, you could come out and ice fish Lake Sakakawea and just pull your boat, and have and you could bass fish.
Cool video. Like I got my flip over attached to my boat.
That's totally real. That's a complete reality there for sure. If you did come out and make a video out of something like that, you'd probably be the first one, which is probably pretty sad because it is a great opportunity. There's some really good bass fishing in that lake, and the ice fishing in the Dakotas is also undeniable. The JMO Podcast is sponsored by Long Haul Trucking. Long Haul's always looking for more skilled professional CDL drivers to join their team. They're a people-first company, and it shows. Their employee-owned, asset-based fleet of over 350 Conestogas is among industry leaders in pay and benefits geared towards long-term success and growth for company drivers and owner-operators. If you're a professional driver or a company that wants to ship product with the best in the business, get a hold of Long Haul at 1-800-255-5153 or find them online at longhaultrucking.com. Long Haul, running on the power of promises kept. I just like to find out how people make their decisions ultimately. And when you talk about gear, it says a lot about what a guy's approach is and their decision-making process, whether it's a kind of an aggressive approach or a conservative approach. How would you describe yourself a little bit, and what's the method to your madness when you're out there fishing?
Sure. I guess we'll rewind all the way back. If I'm going to a brand new lake, some things I do right away is, depending on the state I'm in, like if I'm going to the lake in Minnesota, a lot of times I'll look on the DNR report or I'll go into Lake Finder and I'll at least kind of see what's in the lake, the numbers, the report. It's got good numbers of bluegills and stuff like that. I guess I'll just kind of get a good layout of kind of the history of that lake, and then obviously looking at the map. So a lot of times I find success fishing offshore with my electronics, but I understand that that's not totally accessible to everybody out there. So like, if I have something to say to anybody who's fishing a brand new lake, I'd say, look at Google Maps, look at your computer, because a lot of times you can break down water before you even show up to the lake. Like you can look at Google Maps and determine what side of the lake is pretty steep, where there's good breaks, where it looks like there's some main lake points, and you don't have to have any electronics at all to do that. So that's my first approach, is just kind of doing a light scouting, and it can take anything from 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to sit there and do map study for hours, but just kind of familiarizing yourself with the lake before you drop in, I think is super important to kind of like at least get your head out of the space of fishing the first good thing you see. Because I feel like I do that all the time. Maybe I'll drop into a new lake that I didn't look at, or I don't do a spin around, and I'll be like, oh, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Let's go fish that. When like kind of the best thing to do, I think, is do a little lap around the lake, or I guess kind of drive around a little bit, and I guess look at a bunch of different stuff and familiarize yourself kind of how it all lays out. But from there, I think I take a fairly aggressive approach. I'll sometimes break down shallow first and then move out deep, or I'll try shallow first and then move out deep. As far as like actual gear, rods, I like Dobbins rods. They're more of a Southern company, but I've had good success with them. I've been playing with those rods since I've been 16 years old, and they've been really quality for me. I feel like they're a light, sensitive rod, and I feel like they stand up with good rods like a G. Loomis or St. Croix. Like I feel like it's in that tier of rods. And as far as baits go, man, I throw everything under the sun for plastics. I'm not biased to one certain company. I feel like you need to adjust all the time as far as tough plastics go. Hard baits, I love Rapplas. I'm from the north, so I kind of grew up throwing Rapplas my whole life. So that's where I go if I'm using crankbaits. And jigs, all terrain tackle jigs. Those jigs crush fish, and I use those jigs every day.
What do you look for in a good jigging rod? I mean, when you're flipping jigs and pitching jigs on these deep weed lines, what are you looking for out of your rod?
Sure. So if I'm fishing a bass jig, right away, if I'm fishing up shallow underneath dock, if I'm throwing a skipping jig or a swim jig, a lot of times I'll throw a little bit lighter rod, like 7-foot medium heavy rod. That's just like a tried and true good bass rod. If you wanted to buy one bass rod, I'd probably say get a 7-foot medium heavy. And that's kind of the rod I like to use if I'm up shallow, like I said, on the dock. if I'm going out and fishing more weed lines, or I'm punching grass, or I'm just really flipping big pockets and milfoil, I want more of a meatier broomstick. I'm using like a 7/6 heavy rod. I gotta rip them out of those weeds. A lot of times I'm fishing extremely thick milfoil or coontail, and that's where I really upgrade from the 7-foot to the 7/6. There are some rods in between though, more like a 7.4 or a 7.35 that are kind of that in between, like maybe like a light flipping. So maybe if you're throwing like a 1/2 ounce jig or a 5/8 ounce jig instead of like a really heavy ounce or a 3/4 ounce, there's like those awesome rods in between there if you wanted to get really technical. But if I had to just pick two rods to jig fish with, it'd be 7-foot medium heavy and then 7/6 heavy.
What are some other trendy things happening in your world in terms of fishing? I mean, are you going to hit a bucket list body of water before the end of summer, or what do you got going on?
So I guess I had a bunch of plans kind of earlier this year to do a few more trips up to Canada and chase some muskies down, maybe chase some lake trout down, do a little bit more walleye action up north. That's kind of been put on the standstill, obviously, with COVID and stuff like that. So as far as what I'm doing the rest of the year, I'm trying to kind of line up some plans. I would like to do some more muskie action. Muskie fishing is something I know barely anything about, but I'm totally addicted to. And I'm scared to get addicted to it because it's an expensive sport and it takes a lot of time to get good at, but it's so fun. But besides that, yeah, I might travel down south a little bit, and then depending upon Bassmaster Opens, if they have them or if they have them in certain states, I think New York is our next one. I'll probably travel out there and fish as a co-angler.
Nice.
The rest of those on the Eastern. Yeah.
Sam, you touched on it earlier that you got this weekly video that comes out this Tourney Tuesday. I want to go a little deeper into that. What is that tournament format like for you, that evening tournament format? It looks a lot of fun. I watched the videos. I highly recommend, everybody obviously to get over and check those out. But you showcase the fishing really well on there. But what's the format for you, and what is it that makes it so much fun for you to look forward to every week?
Yeah, and I want to say this too. If anybody out there has never fished a tournament, never seen one, never heard of one, I would still recommend you check out the Tourney Tuesday videos, because it makes every fish catch count, because it does, and it's so minuscule. You know what I mean? It's just a little weeknight derby. There's 15 boats. Everybody basically every week just puts in $50, and we go out there and we tear it up, and it's extremely blue collar. There's people that just joined this year, and there's people that have been fishing the same Wednesday or Tuesday night league for like the past, I don't even know, 15 years. So there's hammers out there. The format is it's 5 fish from 5 p.m. to 8:45. Our 5 best bass. We weigh them in the evening, and it's just top three take all. So it's incredible. I love it. It's not only my favorite videos to make, but my favorite videos to edit, just because I don't know, it's like my home water around me, but it's every fish counts. It's not like we're just going out there and just trying to catch some bass. We're trying to beat some dudes, and I don't know, it's extremely competitive, even though it's extremely local, but we love it, me and my buddies.
And it's a different lake every week type of deal. And I really want to kind of dive into some of your decision-making process. Like, man, that's only 3.5, less than 4 hours of fishing. Like you got to be just turning and burning on some of these spots, not?
Yeah, they're not extremely huge lakes, and it's just kind of all like within an hour of the South Metro or kind of by the Metro. So some lakes are bigger than others, and other lakes are just smaller ponds. Well, exactly like you said, for basically 4 hours of fishing, or less than 4 hours of fishing, we are turning and burning. So like whether we know these lakes well or whether we don't know them or we pre-fished or not, it changes every week. It's like we'll go try something. If that's not working almost immediately, we kind of got to throw our game plan out the window. My partner and myself, Adam, Brock, they're kind of like my 2 buddies I fish them with. We like to fish deep a lot. So we'll go out and try to hit these spots and kind of melt deep rock piles or weed lines or sand drops or kind of areas like that, structure like that. And if that's not working, we got to be able to throw it out the window at the last minute and go, all right, we got to go catch 5 in a pretty short amount of time. But that's what makes it fun and makes it kind of high pace.
That sounds like a ton of fun. Do you find that it's maybe affecting you a little bit, like when you go out for a fun fish or like a day of fun fishing, when you've got all day to fish and you pull up on a spot and like you're forecasting and you're like, all right, let's go to the next spot?
I think it does. I feel like sometimes it affects me in a good way just because, like, I think just fishing tournaments in general or little tournaments or competitions against buddies, it'll help you break down the water more because you kind of got to go out and catch them. But in the same token, too, I feel like I've lost some patience that I had before. Like, oh, maybe let's just melt the spot out. I'm like, we're not getting them. Let's go.
I love it. And, here we are now, in August. How has your season been? What's the update on that?
It's good. It's been going pretty good. We came out really strong right away. We won a couple of them, and then we placed high, and then we struggled. And we took like some 6th, 7th, 8th places, and we're just like down in the dumps. And then toward the end here, last week, we were tied. I think we were tied for 5th or 6th place going into the last Turning Tuesday regular season event. And we're like shaking on our boots because the top 5 at the end of the year go to a tournament of champions. It's basically just the top 5 boats compete, and there's some money set aside all year long that kind of goes to the end pot. And it's not about that money. It's about making bragging rights. Like, we're going to the tournament of champions. We're the top 5 team of the year. And we pulled it off. We ended up getting 3rd place last week. It was a really tough fight, and it knocked us into the top 5. So that's what we have this week. This week tonight actually is the tournament of champions. So we're fired up. The last one.
Definitely going to look forward to that video, man. I wish you luck for sure. I tell you what, man, great interview. Thank you so much for the time. Let's maybe round this out like I usually do and just have you kind of rattle off your social medias and where people can find your content.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It's awesome that there's podcasts out there like you guys' that talk about fishermen and highlight the outdoors and get more people more pumped to get outside and get after it. So if you guys are interested at all in checking out the videos, my social media is at Instagram is Sam_Sobi_. I do a lot of posting of little videos and pictures on there. And then YouTube, where I post most all my content, is just Sobi, Sobi. And that's my nickname. That's what everybody calls me. So that's kind of why it's called Sobi. But it's fishing, hunting, getting into trouble with my buddies, morel hunting, anything outdoors where me and my buddies are sticking off. That's what we do there. So check it out if you haven't.
Awesome, man. Well, there you go. I'll let you back at it, Sam. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, sounds good, Taylor. You have a good rest of the day.
Thanks again to Sam Sobi coming on the podcast. What a great young man that has dedicated his life to promoting the fishing industry as a whole. And thank you all for following along on another episode of the podcast. Head over to our social medias at Jason Mitchell Outdoors on Instagram or Facebook, where you can recommend a guest or a topic for an upcoming show. If you're coming to us on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends.